Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I am your host John, and today here on the channel we are talking about spooky season. Spooky season opens up on September 1st and it goes all the way through October 31st, and today happens to be September 1st, the opening day of spooky season. And you guys know, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, we really like to celebrate spooky season here on the channel, and we're gonna have plenty of spooky season related videos for you guys. Original versus remake is going to become, really focused on the season itself. Same thing with Was It Great or Were You 8? Me and David, aka Shamrock Balls, have some Let's Talk Movies podcast episodes we're going to be doing for the season in October as well, so keep your eyes peeled for that. There'll be plenty of top 10 lists, some horror related videos, of course, just because this time of the year happens to be very special to me personally, and I know it's very special to a lot of you guys too. Coming out of the summer season, if you're a fan of movies, that's big summer blockbuster season. It's all about getting out of the heat, going into the air condition, getting some ice cold soda pop, and, just really avoiding the weather outside. But as the air starts to change, it starts to get cooler out, the leaves change, everything just gets better in my opinion as September rolls around. Starbucks brings out the pumpkin spice latte. I turn to a basic white girl when that happens. Pumpkin flavored beer comes out. Everything you could hope for this time of the year. You get to go to the wineries. But of course, as cinephiles, what do we love most about this time of the year? All of the great autumn movies, all the great horror movies that you could watch this time of the year, really around the season itself, or just great horror in general. And 2025 has been a great year for horror, just showing us that no matter how bad creativity gets in Hollywood, at least the horror genre will still deliver some fantastic films. Just this year alone, we've gotten Sinners, which is something that'll definitely stand the test of time as far as films go. It's not just going to be known as a great horror film, that's just going to be known as a great film. Then you have movies like Weapons, which are like really genre-bending films, because is it a horror film, is it a comedy film, is it a drama? It's a bunch of different things. 28 years later, a great zombie horror film with a great dramatic twist on it. So the horror genre is still thriving to this very day, but this season is when we really celebrate the horror genre, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to count down the top 10 movies that you guys should be watching this spooky season on physical media. This is my opinion only, so you know how I like to do it. It's all about the film, why this movie means something to me, why I think you guys should be watching this movie this holiday season, as well as, the quality of the 4K Blu-ray discs that are in here also. So we'll dive into it. There's always going to be some cheats in there where there's more than one movie under each entry. It's my list, like I said. It's completely my opinion. And as always from you guys, I want to know, what are you guys going to be watching this spooky season? Let me know down in the comment section below. And without further ado, let's dive into this list.
Put a spell on you.
And at number 10, I got Hocus Pocus, and this is one that Dennis and I have been kicking around. Was it great or were you Abe? This is one we're thinking about doing for that video series if you guys haven't checked it out yet, because this is a one, if you were a 1990s kid, you absolutely love this Disney released movie. And I was surprised to find out that as I've gotten older, not everybody loves that movie. So that's definitely one that speaks to a certain group of kids who grew up in the 1990s who like this kind of movie. Definitely the first time a lot of us had ever heard of Bette Midler. Of course, this is where you see Sarah Jessica Parker, in my opinion, the best role she's ever been in. Not a big Sex in the City kind of guy, so she's never really spoke to me. Kathy Nanjiani is fantastic as well. She's the real comic relief of this movie. There's just so many quotable lines in this movie. So many of us know about Zachary Binks just because of this movie. Taking the Salem witch trials, flipping on their head, something that we can present to the kids out there. And, a lot of us just really ate this movie up. The 4K Blu-ray is pretty good. This is not a 10 out of 10 4K Blu-ray. I bought this after it came out, so I didn't get the steelbook or the slipcover, but this is definitely the definitive way to watch this. This got a sequel a couple years ago, which is fine, but of course that's just trying to play with your nostalgia as it is. I thought it was a good one-time watch, but it's not something I revisit every single year like I do Hocus Pocus.
Happy Halloween.
And at number 9, I got one that has really become a Halloween tradition, and that is Trick or Treat, which is really crazy to think because this movie originally was not even released in theaters. It was supposed to get released in theaters, and then it got sent to home video, I think, years after it came out, which is actually crazy to believe because when you watch the movie, it's got so many big-time actors in it, including Brian Cox. It's like, how does a movie featuring these kinds of actors get sent to like the shelf and just not come out, and then it gets released and people are like, what the hell happened? This is a fantastic anthology horror film, right up there with the Creepshows of the world. If anything, I actually enjoy this movie more than Creepshow, which is hard to believe. Obviously everything in this movie is about the holiday of Halloween, told through connected anthology scenes. So one segment's around what Brian Cox is doing, another segment around like what happened with these kids on a bus, and all of it is building to a conclusion where we kind of merge all of these storylines because they all kind of take place in this same town. Dylan Baker has another phenomenal performance in this movie as well. What happens to him, very surprising. We kind of see it through a couple of different segments. I love that. Again, it's all about the holiday of Halloween, so this is one you have to watch during October, and I promise you will not be bored. And Arrow Video hit an absolute grand slam with this 4K Blu-ray release. This movie has no business looking this good. Fits the holiday perfectly. Definitely grab this Arrow Video 4K Blu-ray. I believe that it's actually getting a new 4K Steelbook for this season as well. I don't like it when they do things like that, but I'm still glad that this 4K Blu-ray does exist, and I can highly recommend it if you haven't grabbed it.
I know this book will drive people crazy. Let's hope so. The movie comes out next month.
And at number 8, I only have the Blu-ray for it, but this year, the reason why I have this on the list is because it's going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray from Arrow Video, and that is John Carpenter's most underrated film, in my opinion, In the Mouth of Madness, starring Sam Neill. He's riding the high of Jurassic Park. I believe this is 1 year after he does that, or it might actually be even the same year that he does Jurassic Park. Either way, or Sam Neill kills it in the lead of this movie. He's just trying to find this author, Sutter Kane, who's just like this world-class author, but he's disappeared, and his investigation to find this guy is going to lead down some pretty crazy paths where he basically ends up in a Sutter Kane book, and In the Mouth of Madness is this guy losing his mind. All of that stuff works so well in this movie. I just think that this movie came out at a time in John Carpenter's career where people didn't believe in John Carpenter anymore. The movies surrounding this film aren't necessarily some John Carpenter classics, but I would put this right up there with the They Lives of the world, the Fogs of the world. Maybe not quite hitting that A+ level like The Thing and Halloween, but it's right there. Definitely for me in my top 5 John Carpenter movies, and that 4K Blu-ray, I can't wait. I had to pre-order it immediately, and we're getting spoiled with so many great physical releases this spooky season, but that's one of them that's right near the top of my list. Spawn's coming out this spooky season as well. Don't necessarily consider that a spooky season film, but In the Mouth of Madness absolutely is one that you have to watch this autumn.
Is that wrong? Hey, these things happen.
And next up on my list, I have a very underrated Stephen King film adaptation, and that is Needful Things. This came back on my radar, not just because of the 4K Blu-ray release from Kino Lorber, which is a really good 4K Blu-ray release, by the way. It comes from an original scan of the 35mm camera negative, and it's actually one of Kino Lorber's best 4K Blu-rays when it comes to the visuals. They do a phenomenal job on it. It's one that when it came out, I believe in 2023, I was like, this one's definitely going into the permanent rotation. Haven't watched the 4K Blu-ray since, but this definitely does feel like the kind of movie we watch in the autumn around spooky season. Stars Ed Harris and Max von Sydow, one of the greatest actors of all time. And who does he play in this movie? He basically plays the devil. He is the devil. He opens up a store in town, basically granting everybody in town's wishes. Anything they could ever wanted, he grants the wish for them. But of course, because he's the devil, he puts his own twist on it. And those twists are pretty much going to bring down this entire town. You watch this movie, though, really for Max von Sydow's committed performance. A little bit over the top, but in the best way possible. It doesn't matter what movie Max von Sydow is in, he's always going to commit to that performance. And around this time, he was just popping up more and more and more and more. He's the guy who's in The Seventh Seal, and yet he pops up in a movie like Needful Things, and he gives it his all, and it just elevates this movie to a higher level because, this could be a very cheesy horror movie, and it is a very cheesy horror movie that a lot of people have written off, and I think wrongfully so. I just think this is one you have to revisit, and if you haven't seen it in a very long time, of course, it's a Stephen King adaptation, so it's going to have all the Stephen King tropes in there. I just think it's one, not as bad as like Maximum Overdrive, but kind of in that same tone. I just think a little bit better, and I really think it's one, if you haven't seen it in a long time or you've never seen it at all, I can highly recommend it. It's even so influential to the point that Rick and Morty did an episode kind of about this exact same story, and I think it's playing with the movie itself, and I really think you guys should check that episode out as well. But if you can only watch one thing this holiday season, make sure it is Needful Things. It's a very underrated film. And next up on my list is Bride of Chucky. This is the one that fits the season the most. You could argue that Child's Play is a Christmas movie. It takes place during Christmas. Child's Play 2 and 3. 2 is the best one in the entire franchise, but that feels a little bit more like you could watch that around spooky season if you want. 3, you could watch around spooky season. I just would recommend never watching that one again. But Bride of Chucky, this is really playing with Scream's tropes. It comes out 2 years after the original Scream, a year after Scream 2. So in horror movies, we're kind of making that change in the late 1990s, becoming more meta, becoming much more horror comedies. As the horror genre was changing, so did Chucky. And a lot of people saw and a lot of people saw the dollar signs on this one. They were like, oh my god, we can revitalize this franchise. Everybody loves Chucky. We have Brad Dourif. We'll bring in Jennifer Tilly to be his bride. We'll call it Bride of Chucky. It'll be a lot funnier than the original 3 entries, which have their funny moments. But this is really a straightforward comedy, in my opinion, with horror elements built in there. A lot of crazy deaths, including one from John Ritter. This is the first movie that introduced me to Rob Zombie. I've heard people say, no, it was Twisted Metal is probably what got you into Rob Zombie. No, it was definitely Bride of Chucky. I watched this movie way too young, and then a couple years later, Edge had, I think it was Dracula as his theme song, his entrance song, and that was all stuff that increased my love of Rob Zombie's music. Still hate his movies, but I absolutely love Rob Zombie's music, and I love it in this movie throughout. Love the entire movie itself, as far as, it's a very entertaining film, very lighthearted. It's not something you're supposed to take seriously. Nobody in the movie is taking it seriously, and that's the kind of movie you watch. You put it on one night, you watch this great 4K Blu-ray, because it is a great 4K Blu-ray with great audio, great visuals. You'll notice it right away in the opening credits with that rain coming down. You'll truly appreciate the movie a lot more if you haven't seen it in years. I have always believed that this is the best Child's Play movie. I know that people probably think that's insane, because I know there are people who absolutely love the entire franchise, love the sci-fi show and everything. For me, after this movie's kind of when it dies, Seed of Chucky, I think, is one of the worst horror films ever made, by far one of the worst sequels ever made. That movie is almost offensively bad. They basically doubled down. It's like what happened with Thor Ragnarok and then Thor Love and Thunder. They just go a little bit too far, and that's what happened with Seed of Chucky. They reel it back, but for me it was a little bit too little too late, and Bride of Chucky is still the best of them.
You're not scared, are you?
Scream.
And at number 5, I only grabbed the original, but you can put the entire Scream franchise here, because I do watch the entire Scream franchise every single spooky season, no matter what. I just believe that every entry in the Scream franchise is at least good. They don't miss on any of the films. Some are better than others. Obviously, the original Scream is by far the best. This is the one that's a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 film. We've talked about it. It's one of Wes Craven's masterpieces. Saved the horror genre in 1996. It was a real struggle in the early 1990s. People thought it was dead. They had to put a new meta twist on it, and that's how we ended up with Scream. And then Scream 2 came out a year later. Scream 3 in 2000. Then I believe 2011 we got Scream 4, which I believe is the second best one in the franchise. Then, got that revitalization with Scream, which is just Scream 5. They call it Scream again. Absolutely hate that. And then, of course, Scream 6. And, it looks like Scream 6 might be the end, even though Scream 7 is coming out. I just do not like what their plans are for Scream 7. They set it up like it was going to be something completely different at the end of Scream 6. Biggest flaw with the entire franchise is how Scream 6 ended it, and how it's setting up Scream 7, and how we're not going to get that version of Scream 7. A little bit upset about that. We'll have to see what they do. It looks like they're all in on it as far as bringing back past cast members. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But like I said, they haven't missed yet with these 6 films. Some are better than others. I do believe that the original 4 movies are better than the most recent 2. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the most recent 2 movies. I did. I enjoyed them. I think they're pretty good. I like what the Radio Silence guys are actually doing with these kinds of movies. I've enjoyed them. I just don't think they hit the levels of the original Scream movies. But hey, what can you do? Scream 2 actually is my least favorite in the entire franchise. I like these 2 more than Scream 2. But Scream 1, it's an all-time classic. And Scream 3 is very underrated, and Scream 4 is right behind it, because Scream 4 is a very, very good film. The only one we still need on 4K Blu-ray. I'm hearing early 2026. We'll just have to wait and see. But check out the original Scream if you haven't seen it. And next up on the list is my favorite Friday the 13th film, the one that I really think fits the spooky season the most. All the other Friday the 13th films, for the most part, take place during summer camp. This is supposed to take place during summer camp as well, but there's so many dead leaves in this movie. It really, truly feels like autumn. And we just talked about Scream and how that one is a very meta horror film. The way they revitalized the Friday the 13th franchise is they had to bring Jason back. After Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, people were pissed it didn't have Jason in it, even though I think the tone of A New Beginning is very underrated. I think that is a great entry in the Friday the 13th franchise, but a lot like Halloween, you have to bring back the guy who really popularized the franchise. Even though he's not the killer in the first one, and he doesn't get his mask until the third one, people wanted Jason. People wanted Jason in the hockey mask. And in this movie, they get zombie Jason. He gets brought back to life. He's going to, he's going after Tommy Jarvis yet again. But this one, we get the James Bond gun barrel opening, but this time it's Jason. There's a lot of big laughs in this movie. It flies by, a lot of over-the-top stuff of the 1980s. Definitely the most 1980s of the Friday the 13th films. And you know that's going to speak right to me. You got the great Alice Cooper song in this movie. A lot of great cheesy deaths. I mean, the way he puts the one guy's head through the side of the RV and just leaves a big gigantic dent. Love that. All that stuff just works so well for a great Friday the 13th film. Unfortunately, they couldn't follow this up again with another really good one until we get to Jason Goes to Hell, which I think is another great movie you should watch during spooky season. But if I had to pick one Friday the 13th film that you have to watch every single spooky season, it's absolutely going to be Jason Lives.
Candyman. You don't have to believe.
And now we're in the top 3, and I actually haven't gotten to watch this movie during spooky season in a few years just because of other videos I've done here on the channel, but for me it definitely does feel like an late autumn, maybe early winter kind of film, but for me it slides right into spooky season, and that movie is my favorite horror film of all time, 1992's Candyman, starring Tony Todd and Virginia Madsen. Just a great, very simple premise of a horror film that has so many layers to it. There's a lot of stuff you can explore in this movie, like the Cabrini Green housing projects. Like, that's just a different layer to this movie, which is basically just taking the Bloody Mary game. You say Bloody Mary a few times in the mirror, and then she appears. In this case, if you say Candyman in the mirror, he's going to appear. And if you don't believe in him, well, he's going to be obliged to prove that he is real. And that's exactly what happens to Virginia Madsen. She's digging around a little bit too much, doesn't believe in him, doesn't take him seriously. And what ends up happening to her? Well, her entire life gets ruined, flipped upside down, all just because he had to make her believe. And this movie, it's not even like the most shocking horror film you've ever seen. Believe it or not, Candyman only kills one person in this movie, even though it is a very, very, very gory horror film. When Virginia Madsen's friend dies and like all the color has been sucked out of her skin, is an image that has like stuck with me for my entire life. Same thing with like the headless dog. A lot of creepy stuff in this movie that's just gonna stick with you, but it's still a fantastic horror film that, it has no business being this good. And I'm one of the people who does like that, what was it, 2019-20, when they did that reboot. Essentially, it's a legacy sequel to this movie. I really enjoyed that one as well. The 2 direct sequels to this movie, you can take them or leave them. I don't really enjoy them that well. The only real selling point is the fact that Tony Todd is a great Candyman. Obviously, he stands out so well in this movie. A lot of people probably still love him from the Final Destination movies. He had a great send-off in Final Destination Bloodlines, but I believe that love for Tony Todd all started right here in Candyman.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
And at number 2, I have a cheat, but every single spooky season, I watch a lot of films from the Halloween franchise, but if I have to pick 2 that I watch every single year and will be watched this very spooky season, I'm going to go with the original 1978 Halloween, directed by John Carpenter, and then I'm going to go with the best one in the franchise, in my opinion, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Everybody knows the story about how the original Halloween became this big juggernaut, the one that really took the slasher genre, put a rocket to its ass and shot it to the moon. After that, we got so many different slashers just trying to copy what Halloween was. That's the reason why we ended up with Friday the 13th. We wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for the success of Halloween. Halloween even got a follow-up with Halloween 2, continuing the story of Halloween. But Deborah Hill and John Carpenter, that wasn't their vision for the Halloween franchise. The Halloween franchise was supposed to be a story about the holiday each and every single year. And in this case, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, was supposed to be just a standalone film in this anthology series of films, but because it didn't have Michael Myers in it, and you probably couldn't promote it correctly that year, unfortunately, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch failed when it really shouldn't have, just because people were expecting Michael Myers. And when I first saw the movie, I was expecting the same exact thing, and I wrote it off for years. But then when I finally caught up to it, watched it for its own values, and I think that Halloween 3 is one of the best 80s horror films out there. I can highly recommend it. Great score. It's just, it is about the season. It's about the season of Halloween. It's all about the holiday. So I think it's one that you probably can watch really right on Halloween Day. But if you choose to watch the original Halloween, I won't fault you because it's a great film as well. I definitely love revisiting it. It's one of John Carpenter's best films, but it's also one that really is one you have to watch during October no matter what. Just fits that time of the year perfectly, that great John Carpenter score. And these both have great Scream Factory 4K Blu-rays as well, with those great hard boxes, great scans. Halloween 3 has never looked better in my opinion. Halloween already had a Lionsgate 4K Blu-ray release, and you know what? They're both pretty good, but if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with that Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray release from a couple of years ago. So make sure you check out either Halloween or Halloween 3 this spooky season.
Oh, God.
All right, at number 1, I have the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And why do I have that at number 1? Well, coming this fall, September 30th, actually, we are going to have the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise released to us on 4K Blu-ray. This is something that has been anticipated for years. Why? Well, this original box set that we got years ago is absolutely atrocious. It looks a little bit like the standard edition coming out, which should be way better than that. But last year, we got the original one on 4K Blu-ray. The most popular in the franchise, absolutely, but a lot of people are like, when are we going to get the other ones? People love the sequels. I love the sequels as well. I think A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is actually a very good sequel. It gets really close to the original one as far as quality goes, even though Wes Craven doesn't direct it. So a lot of us have been anticipating these 4K Blu-ray releases. I'm going to review each and every single one of them here on the channel, except for the first one, because I already reviewed the first one, and there's a great episode of the Let's Talk Movies podcast with me and David, where we actually talk about the film and break it down. So we'll only review actually, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 all the way up to A New Nightmare. And thank God they didn't include the 2010 remake in here. That's one of the worst films ever. Don't watch that one if you're going to be watching the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Stop at New Nightmare and really try to appreciate Freddy's Dead, because that's a really fun one. I would actually put that as the third best Nightmare on Elm Street film, even though it's purely a comedy. It's a Looney Tunes comedy, but it's a Looney Tunes comedy in the best way, and Freddy Krueger's in it. The entire franchise is one of my favorite horror franchises out there. This time of the year, we all just get into these big horror franchises like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and Friday the 13th. But this year, I think it's going to be completely dedicated to A Nightmare on Elm Street, watching all the movies in beautiful 4K Blu-ray. I absolutely can't wait, and that is what spooky season in 2025 is gonna be about. But leave your top 10 lists down in the comment section below, and then while you guys are down there, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel, like John Doe Juggalo, Ben Rondo, and Harvey Scott, you could do that, or you could even become a channel director like Kevin Kruger, Nicholas Head, Uncle V, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, and Stone Yes Man, or you can even bump it up to the channel bankroll members like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you have no money to throw my way, don't worry about it all. I just hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.